I can't tell you how long I've been waiting to take that mask off. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to the entire community for coming out, not just today, but a few days ago, for these important steps that we're taking as a community, as a city, and as a state. I want to recognize the governor. Thank you, Governor, for taking this courageous step. We know that 10 years ago, when this was put to the voters, it failed pretty bad. That means that statewide, it is an unpopular thing to do, but it is the right thing to do, and because of that, I give you all the credit, Governor. I also want to recognize our colleagues that you just heard from, Senator Metz and Representative Williams. They have been fighting this fight for us for years upon years upon years, and I am so happy and so proud that you have carried the baton for us, and you have helped bring us to this moment. I'll try to be brief. As I sat here reminiscing and thinking about these last 3 months, you know, I personally have had this range and roller coaster of emotions. You know, we've been cooped up inside of the house. There was the fear and the anxiety of the pandemic and the virus, and is it going to get us, and, you know, are we safe? You know, finally, after a couple of months, things start to ease up. And I remember hearing throughout the day, maybe about a month ago, about another instance of police brutality in Minneapolis. And so I didn't have a chance to get to it throughout the day, but as soon as I got home, I turned on my computer. I went online and I had to watch the video that people were talking about. And I think I had the same range of emotions that everybody had. Curious at first. Then you watch the man being dragged into the car, then dragged out of the car, and then more officers come. The officer places his knee on the man's back and neck. The man continues to say, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." My wife was in the other room, hearing that I was watching the video. She had already watched it. She started crying and told me to turn it off. I couldn't turn it off because I had to watch it. I heard George Floyd cry out for his mama. And then you hear him cry out his last breaths, saying, "I can't breathe." I think that everybody here, everyone in the world who watched that video, was filled with anger, indignation, sadness. Our hearts cried. And so, quite appropriately, throughout the country, there's been this outcry. People taking to the streets, raising more and more awareness of the injustices. Everyone who watches that video saw that that man was murdered. But also, everyone who watched that video knows that this is not an isolated event. This is not a one-off. But this is part of a systematic. This is part of a culture. This is part of something that's deep-rooted inside our society that led to George Floyd's death. And so I'll tell you, that range of emotion, you know, makes you reflect on how terrible our country's treatment of African Americans has been for over 400 years.
Still that way.
And it's still that way.
That's right.
And so when you're at that level of emotions, and you see the anger in the streets, I think we were all worried to see where this was going to go. But I'll tell you the place of emotions that I'm at right now. I could not be more optimistic for the future and for this moment of change than I am right now, than we all are right now. And this is all on the shoulders of the leaders who have come before us and have carried that baton. But we got to give credit where it's due. So much of the recent efforts have been because of folks like Faith and the young people of this country that have stood up and have become the leaders of today and not the leaders of tomorrow. And they have opened up this window of opportunity for real change in our community that, frankly, I haven't seen, perhaps in my lifetime. And that weight of responsibility isn't taken lightly. Every generation has its moment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our moment. That window of opportunity for change is open for us right now. And now the only question is, what are we going to do with this opportunity that we have before us? Are we going to talk? Are we going to take half steps? Or are we going to take action? And are we going to be bold? I, for one, want to take action, and I want to be bold, and I know you do as well. We're talking about going far beyond police brutality and systemic racism inside of policing. We're talking about changing the life trajectory of a young black child that's born already having trouble breathing with higher levels of asthma, born into segregated neighborhoods, more likely to get lead poisoning, then going to schools underperforming schools that don't prepare them for the real world. Then when they go older, they're suspended at higher rates, and it starts the pipeline, school to prison pipeline. And then they look for a job, and they're turned away simply because they have a black sounding name on their resume. And so injustice upon injustice upon injustice has been the course that so many black families have had to suffer through in our country. And we have the opportunity to change that course right now. So because of all of you, because of our young people, and because of all the folks that are ready for bold action, this range of emotions has brought me to this point where I am optimistic about our future. The baton is in our hands. Let's make the most of this opportunity, and let's make sure we have systemic change that comes to our community, to our state, to our country, and to our society today. Thank you, everyone, and let's continue this fight.
It all comes down to the ballot boxes.